Warning, the show contains adult language. Welcome to another edition of Up and In. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. And what better way to live on your own terms than to get your financial control? Because that's a big, huge part of life, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Speaking of financial control, real quickly here, the work has started. The work has started, so we are in the hustle again, and the hustle is real. And I have to record while I'm driving, so no more of that nice background sound. But let's get into it. Today's episode 272, and it's a simple start to financial control. Now, what I want to share with you guys today is just something very basic, very simple. As I communicate with a lot of different people and observe them, I just noticed that there's just so much of the simplicity of how they can straighten out their lives, gain more freedom and gain more control, and yet they don't practice them. And I see a lot of pain, a lot of suffering and things that doesn't really have to be there. Now, if you saw the title of this show and you're interested in what we have to say, then we've got some really good stuff for you as far as just getting started very basically. So let's start first. Money. Yeah, you can't have financials without money, right? So what is it? Why, how, and what to do with it? So let's start with the why first. Now, I've said this a lot, but somebody who's just tuning in who saw the title might say, well, why? Well, why is because money in our systems right now, our current systems, drives everything. It's the driving force. It's what keeps electricity on. It's what keeps you alive. I mean, you don't have to pay to breathe yet. Here in California, they'll probably fucking tax you soon. You know, you want some fucking a can of air, you know? But yeah, if you look at the way you even get money, it takes money. You have to have money to go get money. And then they take money from you. It's just crazy. So I think the very first realization for people that should be is that money is the driving force. Now, and it even has to do with your happiness and your spirituality. I'll talk very briefly about that because that's very important for why. Spirituality, no, money doesn't buy happiness. No, money does not buy happiness. It'll buy for a few moments, some contentment or some satisfaction. But you know what it does buy in this day and age? And if you play your cards right, it goes into spirituality because you're able to do spiritual practices such as meditations and things like that, right? And how are you supposed to meditate, and how are you supposed to relax, and how are you supposed to explore the world when you have all these stresses where you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from, right? So now we can see why money is so important and how it really, not dictates, I would say, but how it affects your life and everything. And then your happiness too. If you don't know where your next check's going to come from, you're worried about getting fired, you have no savings, no reserves, no plan, no nothing, you're just pissing in the wind. There's always that thought in the back of your head of well, what do we do? I mean, some people are just walking around this planet they just don't give a shit, right? I think of the majority of them, 99% possibly. And there's a reason why too, when we look at statistics where I think they said 7 out of 10 Americans barely have $1,000, $2,000 of savings for just a month. They have about a month's savings, if that. And one of the an analyst I met, he said one of the most prominent reasons for bankruptcy is illnesses, like disease and stuff. Somebody gets cancer, somebody gets hit by a bus. Their systems that they've built are so fragile that any little tiny shaking of it, some component is taken away, or a monkey wrench gets thrown in the fan, then you're fucked. So that's not the way to live life. That's not really, in my book, what we should do. I mean, you don't have to rely on money. You can't just go out to some third world country, places like where I lived in South America, in Uruguay, where there's people, roaming around. There's still land out there. I don't know about now. That was a long time ago. But I do know that there's places where you can just disappear in the jungle or the forest and stuff if that's what you so choose to do. But I don't think there's a very big number of us ready to do that kind of stuff. Okay, so the money. How and what to do with it? Well, I think the how is what we're going to explain, so we can skip that one. And the what to do with it, I think we also have on our lists here to keep it simplified. I mean, this should be. I should name this podcast, this show here, Part 1. I think because we can go on and on and on. But I've done due diligence to try to help people out search through the shows, and you'll actually see all kinds of stuff on how to save. But let's get in here, the different stuff, what to do with money. So the very first thing that I look at is we should identify all the important things that you do have control over. Now this is very important. I think this is like a practice run. So what you got to do is you got to stop, drop, and roll, as they say, when there's a fire or something. You need to calm everything down, and you need to start start locating and identifying, well, what are the things I have control and what are the things we don't have control over? So one of the very first things that I believe that people have control over is their spending habits. And you don't have to go. One of the things I see with people is that they go and buy a bunch of cheap shit. Or they just buy shit in general. And it's the problem is it's like a bunch of children, right? And if you go to the grocery stores, I know we have listeners all over the world, but I think at least here in the United States, they probably do it in your countries too, is they put the candy right at the cash register, right at kids' level, at their eye level, right? All the bubble gum and bubble fucking yum and Big League Chew, if they still have that gum, all these kind of stuff, so that when you're standing there in line, your kids, it's just in their fucking face. And then how the fuck are you supposed to be a kid? I just F-bombed the shit out of it, didn't I? How are you supposed to be a kid and you're just looking at that like for me, it would be a bunch of mixer drinks and shit and beers and wines and stuff like that. You'd have all lined up, you know? And you're constantly sitting there having to stare at it. It's on billboards, it's in commercials, it's just being pounded in your head. So a lot of people foolishly, with the little bit of money they have, and that's why they can't save, they spend it all on things that they think are going to make them happy. And, you know, a lot of people say, yeah, money can't buy happiness, and then yet when they make purchases, a lot of it's done emotionally, like, yeah, well, I deserve this thing, right? I worked my ass off. I deserve that stick of bubble gum. If we look at the mindset, which we're not going to really go into today, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. And when people do buy stuff, they never look at it as an investment thing. They just look at it as, well, it's cheap, 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 like we're a bunch of fucking birds, right? Oh, what's the future gonna behold? With you buying a bunch of cheap shit, stuff that's completely obsolete within a year, if not in this day and age, even like a couple months. So yeah, it doesn't pay off in the long run. You're shooting yourself in the foot. So we need to learn to have control over our spending. And we talked about in previous shows here last week how important your spending is. You vote with your dollar. Wherever the dollar goes, that's where business goes. We have entrepreneurs and stuff like that. Where do you think they're going to go? What would be the smartest thing that someone could do in order to make money? They're going to go where the money is, right? We're going to find out where all the attention is. Where's all the attention going? You don't just randomly go out there and, you know. So you're going to find where the spending habits are, and you're going to go attack that thing. And unfortunately, we're always under attack with cheap fucking goods. So once you master your spending, which we're going to get into how to do this, you need to figure out what to do for savings. Now, there's a lot of these people, the FIRE method and things like that, and you can go through all that stuff if you want, but we're here for simplicity's sake today. And to me, there's not a certain percentage, I would say, that you can, if you can lock yourself in, that's great. I think maybe, I would say if there's like 20% of your income, if you were able to sock that away, so that you were able, like a baby, right? You're able, I'm not trying to make fun of people, but it's like baby steps, like the books, you know? And a lot of people are hurting, and when I look at this sincerely, a lot of it's your fault, is the way I look at it, you know? It's not your fault about taxation and things like that. There's things that's not under your control, but your spending habits, you know, it's not how much you make, it's how much you spend, right? If you ask any rich people. So the savings, if you need to lock yourself down, give yourself whatever you feel comfortable with, 5%, 10%, anything is better than none. It'll all start compounding after a few years. So another thing that I want to talk to you guys about where you're spending, let's go back to that on investing in a way that you've never really thought about before, with a twist I think I put here in my notes. Now, one of the things I just started getting back into is kombucha making. And it's not that much money at all. It requires a 1-gallon glass jar, a pH meter if you really want to take it to the next level, which was $10. I had a rag and some rubber bands around my house. I just bought myself a SCOBY, which is called, this little mushroom fungal thing. That's what gets everything started. So I already had some sugar. I invested in some black tea, which I have honey as well and things like that. You need sugar. But all of these things don't really cost that much money. I went and bought myself a heating mat for seedlings. It's the kind you put your seedling tray on, and it stays around 65 to 85 degrees, and that's going to be used inside my small little closet cubby to get my kombucha up to temperature, and so I can actually start drinking kombucha, basically. And I got my kids drinking it with live probiotics. Why am I talking about this as far as investing? This is a whole twist on things. Once you get a SCOBY, just like I talk about growing your own food with seeds, it multiplies. It keeps multiplying and multiplying. Therefore, you can help your community out, right? You can just start giving them these extra SCOBYs. You cut it in half. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, just to infinity. So you can give it away and help out your friends, teach them how to ferment their own kombucha, right? Why would you want to drink kombucha? Because the enzymes and the probiotics and just the health of it. It's called one of the elixirs of life, for thousands and thousands of years. Helps with digestion. I'll tell you guys what, I've been drinking kombucha here for every week, for a few weeks here, like 5 days a week, and it is helping with my digestion. I feel good. It's very difficult for you to give your children. I think probiotics, they have little powders and stuff like that, but they all cost a lot of money, right? For sugar is cheap, black tea is cheap, and you can get any type of fruit if you want to flavor these things, right? And the kids, if you make them like a peach one with mint or something, they love it. And it's an easy, free way to get live probiotics in my book and large quantities of them. And when we talk about from an investment, you're investing in your health. But this starts to multiply. When you start to think of these type of things, I can go and start selling SCOBY, right? The mushroom to other people. I could actually start holding classes and teach my community and charge them how to actually make kombucha. I could actually make kombucha for those who don't want to learn, put my own signature twist on this thing, with some cinnamon or whatever, or make some wonderful stuff. Start brewing it, and legally you can do this stuff. And you'd have to check in your counties. But I could start selling kombucha. I could start a YouTube channel on all my different kombuchas that I make, how to flavor them and just sampling them. I could do TikTok, Instagram. There's so many ways that these things can go, and it's from a simple, maybe a $40 investment, which is not a lot. I think people could muster up. So you're improving your life, you're improving your health, you're actually bringing in maybe a residual income of some sort, and you're also helping your community and the world by not having to ship kombucha from other parts of the countries, and actually making a difference to where your dollar goes in your investments. And it goes very huge. So that's my investing. And I'm not talking just about kombucha here. I'm talking about you to take this philosophy of what I just said with these things. There's multiple other things as well. You can start making seedlings. I think tomorrow we're going to talk about how to do food scale production on a small to medium scale. And I could do seedlings. I've already done this. I've practiced around it, and I think I already spoke about it. But I could sell seedlings, right? There's so many, for the pennies on the dollar for initial investment. And these are things that I'm already doing anyways. We're stacking functions. So, yeah, enough of that rant. Let's talk about a little bit now about practicing to identify the things that you don't have control over. I think the things you do have control over are kind of overlooked. And I definitely think the things that you don't have control over. One of the things is taxation. One of the biggest ones that I've explained to somebody lately, they asked me, was that, excuse me, I got stuff falling off my dash because I'm driving through the hills over here. One of the things that I spoke to them about was ghost taxes. And this is taxes when people look and they say, well, I work for $20 an hour and I only bring home about, $14 or $13 an hour. The government takes about a third of what I make. And I said, but it's not over there, at least here in Sunnyside, California. We've got another almost 10% tax. So really, in actuality, they're taking more, like probably 40% to 45% of what you make. And if you're an entrepreneur, I'm not going to go down that road. You're paying even fucking more. But yeah, taxation is definitely something you don't have control over. Or do you? Now, let me tell you a little bit of story about a guy you're probably been listening to about the show called Up and In It, where, it's about freedom and doing shit on your own terms. Now, this guy, he knows how much money he can make because it's all out there for everybody to see. It's all public information. And what happens if you start looking up or get yourself a tax person and look up and say, well, how much taxes, if I made $50,000 a year, how much taxes would I actually owe? right? They would probably say, well, depending on your dependents and things like that, they would probably say, say you had 2 children, they would say you would owe nothing. Actually, you'd get about $10,000 to $14,000 back. So when we look at it, you're actually probably making like $35,000 a year if you're making 50. And while they give you $10,000 to $14,000 back, that's almost like you're paying. I'm doing the math here while I'm driving. Now you're only paying about maybe say 10% taxes, right, on federal income taxes. So one can actually design their lives, and I think that people could live a pretty comfortable life on $50,000. Now, a lot of people say no, as far as owning a home and things like that, but I think with simple investments and things like that, if you've simplified your life and you kind of know the lifestyle I've done, that's very simple, you could actually live quite comfortably and have freedom and mobility, right? So you just need to know your numbers. We're going to get into that as well. There's another one that's very important I've been really talking about a lot in the past couple months is inflation. And for those of you who don't know what inflation is, it means the value of your dollar is decreasing, meaning it has not the value it had before anymore. Meaning you go to buy a head of lettuce for $2, the head of lettuce is now $3, right? So your buying power, or what I guarantee you what companies are going to start to do. It's the same box of cereal, right? It's just thinner and a couple ounces short. So you're getting the same size cereal box at the facade at the front of it. It's just a couple, maybe a full inch and a couple ounces lighter, right? So it's still $5 for that box of cereal. You're just not getting the same quantity anymore, right? Because that's good fucking sales right there. These people are very, very sneaky. So I think that you should save money, but I think that you should recognize too things like inflation. I want to talk about here is that now that we understand what it is, if you're in a position, as we talked about, where you have reserves and you have emergency funds and things like that, you're going to have to compensate for this inflation. In my book right now in 2021, and we're in, what the fuck month is this? September for me when I'm recording the show about mid-September. I'm looking to take my reserves, my emergency funds, and I'm going to up them about, I'd say about at least 10%, probably more like 15 just to play it safe so I don't have to think about it anymore. Meaning, let's just put numbers correctly. If you had $50,000, actually that's just too much math right there. No, I guess I could do it while I'm driving. I'm horrible at math, believe it or not. But yeah, if I had $50,000 in the bank, I'm going to add in about $7-8 grand, right? And I'm going to put that in. So now I have what I used to live on, what I used to look at and say, well, I've got a year's supply of funds and money like that. I can live off $50,000. Now that number just up to $57,000. So now I know I'm still in the same spot. Is it depreciating? Yes, it is. But I look at, we've got all these people telling you to invest your money in real estate, invest your money in this and that. Well, guess what? We don't got money to invest. And in fact, before you invest, you need something to back your ass up. And that's some savings. That's a emergency reserve. So even though inflation is starting to hurt it, you need to start off, in my book, other people will tell you different shit, but in my book, you need to get that initial savings to have there so you have peace of mind and you're able to start doing your investing or whatever it is that you're doing, having those reserves back there. It makes life go a lot more smoother. Just rolling up at the farm here, so that's the truck's just squeaking like a squirrel over here. And let's see here. So, yeah, let's go down to everything needs to be tracked, basically, is what I look at. And the way for you to track your money, this is the very simple thing of how to save, is I've talked about this before, but we're going to make this even simpler than what we did before. What I want you guys to do is get Apple's numbers if you're an iPhone person. If you're not, if you're Android or something like that, you can get Excel, Microsoft Excel, right? Or there's other stuff in there, just basically a calculator. But I like the Excel method of Excel and Apple's numbers. I've explained to you guys how to do this. It's very simple. You don't even need to itemize number like as far as name anything. Just to simply start saving money and getting financial freedom, just start logging down everything that you spend. If this is too much technology for you, I understand. I used to be in the same boat, and I still am learning all the time. Just get yourself a calculator and keep on a piece of paper if you have to, write down, say, at the beginning of the month, write down your rent that you spent and everything, add that all up on a calculator, and let's just say you're at $1,500 at the beginning of August 2021. Every time you make a purchase, just start adding I don't give a shit if it's water, laundry, if it's a Coke you bought, coffee, any and all expenses, start just tracking them. And then just simply number those by month. Just simply say, well, maybe I spent $2,000 in September. I spent about $3,000 in August. So you're just basically seeing the number. So now you can physically see in front of yourself. This is a good practice technique because it really doesn't take a lot. You can actually see where you're going and where your spending is, how it's kind of fluctuating, and where you can actually save. Now, once you get comfortable with that, because I think that's what's going to whip you into shape, is you're just going to start going, well, damn, I'm just all over the fucking place. And am I spending more than I'm even making, especially you people with credit cards? But if you decide to go with Apple's numbers or Excel, it's very simple. There's these little cells, and you can just simply type in every time you go grocery shopping, you spend some money, you can type in a cell. It's a little box underneath the previous box where you had a number. You're just going to enter in that number and then push enter. That's it. At the way bottom, it's going to automatically add everything up. It's faster than you taking your credit card out and swiping it to pay for something. Literally, you can log this in within minutes. And I believe that once you start getting comfortable with this and it starts waking you up to go, wow, where's all my money going? Now you can start itemizing those things. And I spoke about that, of how to save and things in other podcasts. If you guys want me to explain it again, or maybe some details, comment below, send those over, and I'll explain to you guys exactly how to itemize it. But, we have fixed expenses, variable expenses. Fixed expenses you're going to find are things that are just definite, like your rent, your car payment. And then you have variables, groceries and electricity and things like that. So once you start to get comfortable and you really want to get out of the hole you're in and you actually want to get ahead in life and gain financial control, you're going to start listing groceries, gas, coffee, all these things you have expenses on. And the only way that we can, it's not the only way, but the biggest way I can look at in simplicity of saving money and getting ahead, you got to know where all the money's going. You have to be able to track your spending habits. Once you're able to track each thing and itemized, now you're starting to look at, well, as we talked about before, well, how do I save? How do I get out of the great struggle, Adrian? Well, now you know how much you're spending on coffees. It's probably pretty fucking embarrassing, or your wine or beers every weekend or weekday and everything. And yeah, just unnecessarily spending habits, and it'll give you the way for you to lock everything down and get control. Because most of us, the reason why I wanted to make this show today is just so many people I see are just walking around blindly. They have no idea what they're spending. They have no idea how to save. And it's really simple. It's not very difficult at all. And I think that if I could help people in this way, which is my intentions, it would change their lives for the rest of the course of their lifetime. It would change everything. It actually would make people fucking happy. Believe it or not, I think people would be really happy. I'm fucking happy, even though I don't fucking look like it. No. No, I feel so good about shit because I've got my reserves and things like that. And it gives me control, not just financially though, even though that was the big first step. I get to do almost whatever the fuck I want, guys. And that's what I want for everybody else. I want for my children. And I want people to start focusing on the positive things instead of all the negative bullshit that we have out there. And it takes you got to have your own shit together before you can go out and change the world or change things or make beautiful things, right? It starts with you. And I believe spiritually and happiness and all of these things will start to come to fruition once you get your financials in check. Either get it in check, figure it out, or like I said, go move to the jungle and shit like that where you don't have to use money. Or become a homeless person like a lot of people I see around where I think they just say, fuck it. But fortunately, some of these people are still asking for what? Money. So you see how very important it is. But that's the message, guys. You guys know what to do. Everything's at the bottom. Everybody else tells you what to do. I'm not going to do it. So go down to the bottom and do it. Go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Live it, love it, or human up. Live it, love it, own it. And bone it, my friends.